Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. The people are joining, so we'll give a minute or two. Grab a cup of coffee if it's the morning. Well, you can get a coffee if it's the afternoon. If it's not, if it's the evening, probably the glass of water would do fine. And we'll start in a minute. Okay, I can see that we've got number of people already in the room, and the remaining are joining. So welcome to the very first session of Around the World with PTE Academic 2024. So this is the opening session. So we designed a program that the program will last almost through the whole year. So just you will have I hope that you now have the link to the Around the World with PTE Academic website. Well, you'll find all the sessions and all the registration links, and you'll also get the recordings there. So the recordings will be available for you. So today we're gonna start with a very general introduction, but a very interesting, one of the most interesting topics. So artificial intelligence in PTE Academic Scoring. So automatic scoring. So we'll talk about it with our expert speaker in a second. The next month, you'll get a session on best practice preparation strategies. Actually, in those sessions, our aim was to bring practitioners to you. So you'll hear the experts being within the Pearson team, but you'll also hear from practitioners, academic teachers who prepare for high stakes tests. And this will be one of the sessions. Then we'll have a session on embracing test takers failure. The theme, the name is very specific because you cannot fail, but this is what you can get with your test takers if they don't reach a desired score and they come back to you. And then you need to deal and you need to work with them towards another PTE academic attempt. Then we've got the advanced pronunciation and fluency for PTE academic. So all the things that you can implement when it comes to pronunciation and fluency, so speaking elements. Then we'll have the session about advanced vocabulary and advanced writing skills for PTE academic. And the last two sessions will be in-class question type evaluation. So another practitioner experience, how can you evaluate PTE academic question types within the preparation course? And the last session, the cherry on the cake, so learning from high scorers. So this is like, how can you work, what you need to implement into practice if you work with those willing to get a really high scores, not the lower one, but those aiming to achieve really high. Are there any specific strategies? And last year, it was like, it's a continuation of the last year program. So last year, I would say it was like an introduction. We've got dealing with challenges, speaking, writing, listening, the reading challenges, and you had a set of strategies. What can you do in the preparation courses? And this year, we wanted to have the advanced knowledge. Okay, so that's why you've got the advanced skill for writing, for the vocabulary, for the pronunciation and fluency. So not the very basic ones, but the ones at a slightly higher level. So I hope that you will benefit throughout all those trainings. And today we've got AI in PTE Academic Scoring. So I'm gonna be in a wonderful, I hope, wonderful conversation with Kasia Wojciechowska, who is a senior manager of high stakes. And the aim of the session today is basically to cover 3 elements, so that you'd get, probably you know a lot, but you'll get a bit deeper understanding about automatic scoring, about the role of AI, but we'll cover the elements of the past. So we'll go back in time. We'll talk about present, so the most relevant aspects, and then I hope to finish with some future orientation. So ending a little like where can we go further, or what are the potential strategies and potential options that we could go further. In this session, you've got the Q&A open, so feel free to ask questions. But the most importantly, please listen to the conversation, because probably you might hear the answer already being presented as we talk. So I'm gonna stop sharing the screen right now, and Kasia, over to you. If you could, first of all, well, the Senior Manager High Stakes Test. This is the name. I've been working with you for some time, but if you could tell our audience about your role, who you are within this team, and what's that beautiful background that you're having.
Hi, everyone. I hope you are enjoying your morning, afternoon coffees or water. It's really lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Bartek. Yes, I've been working in test development, in assessment for the last 15 years, 11 of which with Pearson, and 10 of which in the current test development team. So very loyal. I'm really enjoying it. Test development team is part of the sort of wider English language learning department, and we develop content for English language tests. The high stakes tests like PTE Academic, but also other proficiency tests. And our team, we sort of manage the process of creating the content from the sort of A to Z, from item writing, training item writers, quality assurance of their work, through to authoring of the items, meaning putting them on screen so that they appear on the computer for academic, which is fully computer-based, that they appear on the screen as the test taker can see and experience them. We also look after the item bank, so the database where all our content is stored, all the questions are stored, from which we also build versions of the test and publish versions of the test, which we can talk about in more detail if that's of interest. And we are also responsible for monitoring of the performance of the test and monitoring of the items. When I refer to items, I mean questions that appear in the test. We talk about item banking, bank of items, bank of exam questions. And we've got Neil and Marve from our team here today, who are also involved in all of these activities with me. Neil is the assessment manager looking after the quality assurance, and Marve is our senior psychometrician who monitors the performance of the tests, and we are working together on monitoring the performance of the items. So that's in a nutshell what we do.
Yes, and your background, because that caught my eye.
My background.
The virtual background that you're having. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So even though I work in the London team, I'm very lucky to be able to work remotely from Poland. I'm not far from you, Bartek. Of course, you are in central Poland. I'm in the north, and this background is city called Gdańsk. It's one of the 3 cities at the Baltic Sea. It's Gdańsk, Gdynia, and Sopot, and I would really encourage everyone to visit.
Yeah.
It's perfect spot for city break.
Whenever you're trying to have a short break, just to recharge the energy between the preparation courses, do visit Gdańsk. So I'm sure that you will enjoy it. I can see that I appear as PTE Academic, so just a quick explanation. I'm Bartłomiej Janiak, and I'm a teacher trainer and the assessment advisor, and I'm responsible for running the session, but also for coordinating the teacher training programs that we are designing for you. And one of the teacher training program, this is around the world with PTE Academic. So Kasia, when we talk about automatic scoring, and it's in the market for a while, but I'd like to go back, and basically the question is very interesting for me, and I hope for the audience. How did it all start? That at some point the company reached a decision to start computer-based testing?
Sure. We can start with how they developed PT Academic, or why they developed PT Academic. And it was in response to concerns that were raised at the time by academic institutions, by universities, related to the reliability of the results from the tests that were at the time being offered, because students or test takers, people who were admitted to those institutions, to the universities, they were arriving, starting their courses, and it turned out that the level of their proficiency was not as it was reflected in their score reports or certificates that they submitted when they were being admitted to those institutions. And obviously, at that stage, it's a huge problem, not just for the institution, but for the test taker, because that's a concern. Obviously, so far along in the process of being admitted onto their dream courses, it suddenly turns out that they might not be able to successfully, perform and attend the courses and reach the sort of height of their ability at university. So Pearson decided to develop a computer-based tests, highly reliable and highly secure, which also tested all 4 communicative skills. But it tested it on a computer, so securely, and it tested it in academic setting, as opposed to general English. So the tasks that the test taker would be solving, they are based in academic context, based on academic disciplines. And as you all know, majority of the items and questions in the test are based on authentic materials sourced from academic sources. And that really is a short story of how it all started.
And I really appreciate that you said that the situation in the market and those discrepancies that appear between the result and the real skills. And I really keep fingers crossed for all the preparation teachers around the world, so that when they start running the preparation courses, the idea behind it is like, I will work with you towards PT Academic, but the most important element for me will not be the score, but will be the equipping you with the knowledge, so that actually you will survive in the academic reality of the university lectures and workshops. Because this is the point, once you work towards a goal, which is the score, but then the students get in a really dire straits when it's confronted with an English-speaking professor giving a standard lecture and struggling to accumulate the knowledge. So I hope that this is the idea across all the preparation teachers, that you work towards equipping your students to flourish at the university, and the score is just a small step. So Pearson made a decision, okay? And what was the market reaction at the very beginning? Do you have any information about it? How did the market react?
I do. I wasn't there at the time when PT Academic was developed, because that was around 2007, and then it was launched in 2009. So at that time, I was at the beginning of my adventure with assessment, and I was working on, for a much smaller awarding body, mainly on paper-based exams. And so the closest I got at the time to computer-based test was a test scored by OMR machine, where test takers have to provide the answers by drawing dots on the response sheet, which is then fed into the machine, and machine recognizes the patterns. So that was the height of the sophistication. But so I wasn't there, but from my colleagues, I know that the reaction of the market was very slow. So you'd think that those institutions who were raising concerns and had that challenge would rush into Pearson test centers and recommend that the test takers go there and sign up for PT Academic, but that wasn't the case. And there is one story that I love, that one of my colleagues who have been with PTE Academic from the very beginning, our vice president, he told that story, and I love it. You know, when the test was ready to be launched, everyone was really excited, and they were expecting, you know, these sort of waves of people flooding the test centers. So they invested in this big flat TVs that they put around the office to monitor the registrations coming through. And, you know, guess how many came through on day one of the launch of the test?
No idea, but just I imagine those screens like a Wall Street market, just showing the stock going up and skyrocketing.
Well, it was zero. It was
Oh,
zero. So you can imagine
uh-huh.
how deflated they felt on day one, and in fact on day two and day three and day four. They said that it was, you know, probably after a week when the first registration came through, and then they celebrated, and then, you know, so it's you know, it's really difficult to change market perception and to help test takers and learners adapt into something new. And it's really difficult. It takes a long time to build trust. And, you know, for high stakes tests in particular, so tests which are taken but, you know, for high stakes decisions such as admissions to universities or for migration purposes, it is key to get recognition from governments and from institutions to build that trust around the test. And you can get that trust and that recognition by having lots of test takers signing up. And you don't get the large number of test takers signing up unless you are recognized. So it is a circle, and it does take time, and it did take time for PTE Academic to reach that point. And, you know, later on, obviously, initially it was developed for academic purposes, and then in time it was recognized by governments as suitable to be taken for skilled migration purposes. And yeah, the rest is history.
So so that's a bold step, I would say, like getting into the traditional, I would say, paper-based reality and making this bold step. So what can we learn from history, if we can learn from history, from making these bold steps into, let's say, the unknown, or the area which is not highly popular?
Well, we can learn that you never stop learning. That's for sure. You know, when you launch, when you're pioneering with something like this, you have to be prepared for criticism. And at the time, there were many you know, other providers or assessment experts who were sort of focusing and trying to point out the weak points, you know, weak sides of online testing and computer-based testing. And that's okay. You know, as someone said, sort of, you know, valid feedback, valid criticism is you know, does you a favor. And if indeed it is valid, it can be a really valuable tool to help you develop and improve and enhance your systems. And, you know, and to this date, you know, people, I mean, the purpose of this session is for us to talk about advantages and disadvantages of, you know, traditional testing versus computer-based and AI powered testing. So you know, the conversation needs to go on, and only in that way we're going to learn from it, from the feedback, and we're going to keep improving. Nothing stays still, and technology doesn't. Ways of learning are changing, and we have to go with the times.
Go
And
with the times and appreciate the critical remarks, because when the systems could be developed, if they are valid, these are the beautiful gifts that people can grant institutions so that they will make the system better and more reliable. So you mentioned that these advantages. Yeah, so living the history and appreciating the history, appreciating the knowledge of having no test takers at the very beginning, and then the numbers really going really high. So I
Yes.
imagine the same of like a person, one of the person here is listening and is thinking of designing his own preparation course and launching its own preparation course full of enthusiasm and full of willingness. And then there is maybe not a huge TV screen, but a computer saying that I've got only one test taker. And my idea was to run,
Embrace that one test
yes,
taker.
embrace that one. And my idea was to run
Yeah.
300 online test takers in an online course. Maybe it will take time, but you need to be bold to make steps in the reality, which is new. So advantages, the most significant advantages of using AI for online testing. Yeah, like the landmarks.
Okay, so we can definitely mention a few today, maybe focusing first on the ones that are most relevant to the test takers or the teachers, and that are sort of more tangible, because there are others that are sort of more behind the scenes. But well, the first one is definitely the scalability. So with a computer-based tests, I keep saying tasting, and I did have my breakfast. Computer-based tests, you can handle a really large number of tests simultaneously, and you can deliver them in different locations at the same time, and in different time zones, which with sort of significantly fewer logistical challenges in comparison to sort of traditional testing. So with PTE Academic, a huge advantage is the fact that you can take the test and register for the test on demand. You don't have to wait for a specific time or sessions that are sort of planned throughout the year. You can register on any day throughout the year and take the test. And I think that's a huge advantage that computer-based testing gives you. Another one is efficiency. Again, with PTE Academic, you register, you go to the center, and you take a test in one go. You sit in one session and you are tested on all 4 communicative skills, and your score report will give you results for all 4 communicative scores. I mean, I remember myself when I was, a student and I was taking competitors tests a long time ago. It was a traditional paper-based test, and I had to first take three components and then come back on the next day for the speaking component. It is a big sort of venture to take a test like this. It's costly. It's stressful for the test taker, and apart from the test fee, we can't forget that there's also all these logistical arrangements that have to be made by the test taker, and cost involved in traveling to the test center. So if you can go and do it once and have your results for all 4 skills in one go, it's a huge benefit. The next one related to it is the speed of result turnaround. PTE Academic is fully computer scored. Well, it is a hybrid of computer and human, but we can explore that later if you wish. But it is fully computer scored, and the results are really fast. The sort of typical turnaround of results is 2 days, but we hear stories from our test takers who say that they leave the test center and they go to have lunch, and while they're having their lunch and relaxing after the experience, they get an email notifying them that their results are ready. So it is really, really fast. So these are the probable key advantages for the test taker. Another one is that is as relevant to test takers as it is for sort of external stakeholders like universities and governments, is the reduced bias that computers provide us. With a computer, you really minimize errors in grading, and you minimize bias that is maybe more common when humans are rating, bias around sort of demographics or appearance or any other aspects. any other factors that might contribute to it. So, you know, it does promote fairness and equity in assessment. Yeah.
So this is what frequently comes up, this being accurate and reliable. Yeah. So what is it in this AI scoring and automatic scoring that can actually enhance this accuracy and reliability? As you said, it's not so biased, and this is like huge advantage for the universities to have as accurate score reflecting the reality as possible.
Well, as I mentioned, as the first thing I've mentioned is the accuracy of grading. Computer is applying the scoring rules and the scoring criteria consistently. It doesn't make mistakes. Human, on the other hand, I mean, there's a human error element that, you know, you can miscalculate the points when you're grading. You can also misinterpret the scoring rubrics. So that's the error that might be coming up. In terms of bias, as you know, PT Academic, there's 20 item types in PT Academic, and each of the item type is scored on different traits. And it is the same for other tests, on paper-based tests as well. There's different aspects of the language tested through these item types. So when you, for example, responding to a spoken item, you will be scored on content, pronunciation, and fluency. You know, in PT Academic, if you describing the image, or if you responding to summarized lecture item. And then when you're responding to written item, you scored, you know, like essay, you scored on aspects of the language or traits, we call it, such as grammar, spelling, coherence, and so on. When computer rates you on these individual traits, it will do it independently and without bias. It will not be unconsciously or consciously biased about your performance in one of your traits and then downgrade you on the other traits. So if you know, if I'm describing an image and my pronunciation is really weak, I will lose marks for my pronunciation, but the computer will not be biased, and it will not downgrade me on my fluency, for example, or on the quality of the response, you know, or whether I've captured and included all the points that I was expected to include in my response. With a human, there is a variability. To train, you know, to train human raters, it is a huge undertaking. There are things like, you know, intra-rater reliability. So if I'm a rater, intra-rater reliability means how consistent am I in applying the scoring rubrics? Is if I'm rating you today, will I rate you in the same way tomorrow? You know, there's so many factors that could be affecting me as a human. And then there is inter-rater reliability, where, you know, obviously if you want a test to be scalable, you have many tests to score, you have many raters on your team. So how do you ensure that these raters apply the scoring rubrics in the same consistent way, in an accurate way? You minimize and eliminate that bias, you know, when you score it by a computer.
Okay, and especially appealing for me was the thing what you said, that the machine will not downgrade me on other traits because I did poorly on one of the traits. So it's not that they will build a whole image of a unsuccessful test taker because of the fact that I did poorly in one of the item types, which for me as a trainer is really important, just to be very fair towards all the aspects of the test takers. And you said there is this human element in automatic scoring. So probably this is about, because it's not the system living on its own. So it had to be trained, and it has to be controlled. So how is this engine trained to perform as accurate as you mentioned and to provide unbiased scores?
Yeah, I mean, there's the human element sort of comes in at different points in the process, but I'll start with how the engines are, with your question. So the machine is trained, like a human would, by showing it sample of responses and showing it how they should be scored. So what happens is when we have a new item being introduced, it goes through a really long journey of quality assurance from the moment when it's written. There are many steps of item writing process where we check its quality, whether it meets the criteria and the spec. And it goes through peer review and content review, and then it goes through sort of editorial and so on. But when it's signed off for all those steps, throughout all those steps, it still can't be used immediately to score a test taker because it doesn't have any item difficulty. And the engines have not been trained to score this item or responses that are provided by test takers for this new item. So what have to happen is that we have to collect responses for that item. And the key here is to collect a large number of responses, which is a representative sample of test taker population. Then these responses are sent for human rating. Each response for that new item type, and it's different number of responses for depending on what item type it is, but each response out of the 1,000 of responses sort of that you're getting for that new item is scored by 2 independent raters, human raters. They don't know about each other. Well, they might know that somebody else is also rating it, but they don't know who that is. So it's 2 independent ratings. And if their ratings agree, if the score that they give, is sort of matches up, then that's great. But if it doesn't, then it goes to adjudication. It goes to the 3rd senior rater to settle that and to assign a score. And then that prompt from the new item, the responses from the test takers that were sort of collected, that's representative sample, and those scores are then sent to our teams of AI experts and automated scoring sort of models, teams who look after that, and they do their magic and they feed in all that data into the computer, and they train the engines to score, to mimic the scoring of a human. But another thing I wanted to mention is, sorry, and before I go to that, there is another step, which is where my colleague Marve comes in. So if you want, you can put her on the spot in the chat. Sorry, Marve. Marve is involved in a step called calibration. So once the engines are trained on that new item, then there is a step of calibration where these new items are calibrated against other items which are already live, that are in the item bank. They calibrate it against them and sort of put on the same scale before the item difficulty is established. And Marve and the team are using a sort of psychometric model called IRT to do that. But there's another aspect of human rating, which is incorporated in live scoring. So, once that item that's been already trained and calibrated is then added to the item bank and can be already used to score test takers. In the live scoring, the engines and the machine is constantly monitored and assigned a confidence score on the score it assigns. And if the machine, if that level of confidence in the machine scoring falls below the certain threshold, then it is that response is automatically routed to a human rating team. So the machine can flag, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to handle that response. and then it is routed to a human rater, and the same thing happens. That response is then rated by 2 independent human raters. If their scores agree, that is the score that is assigned. If not, then it goes to adjudication. So there's this, human element throughout the process.
Mm-hmm. So I would say there is quite a lot of human within this process. So it's not like the machine is left on its own and do whatever it wants because we've trained it. So there is like a constant, I imagine that what you just said, I understand there is like a monitoring process and there is this threshold of confidence. So those two entities, the human element and the computer elements are constantly cooperating, if I could say, with each other. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's a hybrid work. And apart from these measures that I've already mentioned, there's a huge amount of work and regular monitoring throughout, the scoring process. There is, reports, and our psychometrics team, Marvey's team, and research and validity team. We look at the test performance throughout the year. We look for, trends in scoring. We see if the mean scores, are as we expect, whether there might be any bias, either, by a part of the world or part of the demographic, or whether there is a difference in in scoring by the test center. And if the psychometrics team sees signs of any abnormalities in there, then we obviously investigate. Equally, our teams look at the performance of each individual item in the item bank, and there are huge benefits of the items being sort of and having it all computerized, because when you've got such a huge item bank, thousands and thousands of items in the item bank, for the human to look at the performance and sort of monitor is really, really difficult. And when I first started, before we sort of automated the process, our teams, humans, were sitting in the room for hours and hours, and we were looking at trends, and that was very useful, and we still do that. But now the sort of the system is using, it has learned from us, from our decisions that we were making about each item and the sort of statistical performance. And now the machine is sort of flagging to us, okay, according to how you approach this review, you really want to look at these items in the item bank. They have a red flag. They have gotten more difficult in the last sort of, month. So something must be going on there. Or maybe they've become really easy. Maybe your content have been, stolen and exposed publicly. And then we look at that, and then these items are obviously removed from the item bank immediately.
So if supposing I'm the best student ever with hyper memory and I'm able to memorize all the questions on my PTE academic test, and I can like channel them through the internet. Hey, these are the item types. So there is quite likely that those questions will be removed and no other students will see those questions again. Of course, probably I will not be able to memorize everything, but just hypothetical question.
Sure. Well, but I'll start with what you said in your speech at the beginning. If you wanted to do it, you wouldn't be doing anyone any favors, and definitely not yourself, because you might increase your chances, to get, a higher score, but that's not necessarily true anyway. Or you might be helping somebody else by exposing the question, but you're not helping yourself in any way. But exactly, there is a separate department in Pearson which has technology that scans publicly available materials and sites, and it does a match between that and the content in our item bank. And so that's separate to what I already said. That's another measure that's somewhere there that constantly monitors what's publicly available. And if we find that our content has been sort of exposed, we know, we are alerted, and immediately take it out of the question. But yet another measure that allows us to mitigate these risks is the way we publish the test. And there's sort of two ways in which you can publish a version of the test. There are fixed forms, so it's typical for sort of more traditional ways where test providers create one or two or three versions, and then they print these versions, and then it's likely that people who sit in one room and write these papers, they have the same version. But with PTE Academic, the way that the versions are created is in a model called LOFT, linear on the fly testing. It's very similar to that model, not exactly, but very similar to the model, where the test version is based on a blueprint which determines in what order and what item types and in how many quantities the test taker should receive their test, which ensures that it's the same sort of format of the exam for all the test takers. But it pulls individual items and puts in those slots, predetermined blueprint slots from sort of populated mini banks or pools of items. So at the time of registration, a unique test form is created for you, and it's really highly unlikely that you're going to see the same question as the test taker sitting next to you in the test center. And obviously, with the number of items in the test that you take in one session, yeah, you would have to have a pretty good photographic memory, Bartek.
Thanks a lot. So it's really clear, and we had numerous sessions on this debunking myths. And as a trainer, I usually, whenever I hear someone memorizing something, I usually ask the question, what's the deeper need which hasn't been secured under this, that someone is memorizing and entering the exam with a very fixed form in mind, knowing the fact that, as you mentioned, it's probably not gonna happen that they will get the question that they memorized, and then they might be surprised that the scores were low when they were just giving something totally off topic. But yet I believe that if the person is doing so, it means that there is a different person, might be a prep provider, suggesting that, hey, this is the good way to approach it. And the simple story that I always share is like, don't go into memorizing. In the long term, it will do more harm than good, especially when you're at the university. The professors and the teachers will quickly see that you are very fixed, saying the sentence like a computer, and they will just uncover the truth that you don't have the ability to to answer the questions flexibly. So you'll not find those questions.
I agree, and we have to have some level of sympathy of why test takers might be doing this, and why they might be allowed to be convinced by these sort of people who advise them to memorize responses, because it is that they're taking the test that results of which will determine their future. There's a lot at stake. There is there's their own expectations and family expectations, and up to the point when they register for the test, they have probably already invested quite a lot into the reason why they're taking the test and the future that it's going to give them. So I can understand why they want to try to do their best, and they want to prepare the best they can. But as you say, Bartek, in the long run, it won't benefit them. But actually, it might not even benefit them during the test, because the funny thing is that when we listen to, and Neil could, talk to this more, because he listens to test takers' responses on an ongoing basis. And the funny thing is that there are test takers who are really good, and they would be absolutely fine, and they would probably score much higher if they only trusted their own abilities and provided authentic responses, rather than provided some sort of memorized artificial responses. Because you can sort of hear their level of proficiency, throughout the test, and then they, use a sort of memorized response, and it doesn't sort of it doesn't do them any favors, to be honest.
Thanks
Yeah.
a lot. And so we've got this element of human, we've got this huge element of engine training, reliability, accuracy. So a bit broader question. So how can we ensure that AI can actually help human learning and development? Yeah, so that the human will learn more effectively and they will develop.
Okay, so I mean, we can move away from sort of the high stakes testing, because the use of online tests is much wider. You know, the institutions are using them, schools are using them, sort of evening courses, they use them to place students in the right class or monitor progress, and all of this is, you know, there are great ways in which online testing can help in learning and in development and achieving better results. So, as I've just mentioned, first of all, it gives you immediate feedback. You know, when you have a large class of students as a teacher, you don't always have time to walk every student through their result, or where they, you know, where they have weaknesses, where their strengths are, and talk them through results. You can use an online test or online tool where they will get their results and immediate feedback that they can read and they can go back to any time they want. So that's really a great way for them to have a deeper understanding of their strengths and weaknesses. And then an online platform like this gives teacher access to all the data about their class, about the student or people who are on the course. And they can look at trends, they can look at individual students, but they can also look at the whole group and also see, well, maybe I need to work on these remediation materials, and maybe I need to address or change my ways of teaching in this area, because clearly this is the where they are underperforming. So that immediate feedback and personalized sort of learning as well. And, you know, many high stakes tests or tests that are taken online when you register for them also are adaptive. So they look at your performance on one item before they select another item that they're going to serve you, and they're going to pick an item that is sort of closest to the level of English you are, which is the benefit of that is that, you know, you are you keep being motivated, so you don't get deflated by, oh gosh, this was a really difficult item, and that means that I'm just not very good. Then, you know, the self-paced learning as well, you don't have to wait to go to the class to learn. You don't have to wait to the class to practice. You can do it from anywhere, anytime you want. You can do it late at night if that's how you work. You can do it early in the morning. You can do it on the bus, on your phone. You don't have to wait for, you know, to go to school or to go to a class to have a chance to collaborate or work on a project with somebody. You can just access online chats. You can, you know, these days you can talk to a chatbot or go to a virtual school if you like. And yeah, you can find collaborators and you can find peers to learn from and learn with much more easily. And I think, you know, obviously there are still people who find it more comfortable to learn in traditional ways. Not everyone is, you know, computer savvy, and sometimes accessing you know, online learning materials can be can create some sort of discomfort. But I think that we live in the times that, you know, it's beneficial for both, for those who are really computer savvy, because then they can thrive in that environment, and those who are less confident, it gives them opportunity to get better and, you know, go with the times, and you know, it prepares them not just in terms of language skills, but also in you know, being able to function in that environment. So yeah, I think these are the key.
But you mentioned something, and this is, I wouldn't be myself without asking this question. So we talk about the good things, we talk about the accuracy. Any potential drawbacks of automatic score tests that you can think of from the perspective of a test taker or a preparation provider? You just mentioned something that some might not be into the technology. So I immediately see that, hey, at the very beginning, you need to just get into the technology because this is the computer-based test. There's no other
No alternative.
alternative. Yes, that's if you agree and the university expects you to do it, you need to accept it in a way as you'll have to accept other university regulations, period. Anything else that comes to you that could be potentially seen as a
Yes, so
drawback?
that that you know, that access and the how comfortable you are with technology, but also, you know, if we do go back to PT Academic, for example, and high stakes tests, you know, you could experience, you know, technical issues, for example, when you're taking the test. So any providers who are delivering computer-based tests,
Sounds
they
like
have
a coffee to go
sounds
later on.
like a coffee to go, yes. They have to ensure that they have the whole infrastructure on all the protocols to address and mitigate, you know, these kind of problems. You know, you could be at the test center, and you could be, you know, there could be power cuts, there could be internet connection problems, or there could be a problem with, you know, with technical equipment in the center. And you know, that's why in PT Academic you start the session by testing of the equipment, and you know, you should always raise your hand and flag if you suspect there is any issues with the technology or with, you know, with the equipment that you were given, even though this should be tested and validated before you even enter in the room. You should flag it immediately, and you know, usually the person who's the administrator and the person who's in the room will be able to help you. But if not, they will log that problem, they will escalate it, and it will be addressed. But you know, you also have sort of post results service that we offer to our test takers, where, you know, maybe they haven't spotted anything at the time of taking the test, or they didn't want to, you know, interfere with the process, and they leave the center, and then they get their results, and they think, oh no, you know, my results are not as I was expecting, and maybe there was a problem that, you know, my feeling was telling me there was something not right. They can go to this post result service, and there are various options available there, like technical check, and they can also appeal, and then these things are investigated. There's you know, a lot of sort of measures, technical measures, CCTV cameras. There are measures behind, you know, the computer that can see whether there was a, you know, a cut, whether the recording has been, you know, whether something hasn't been recorded, or whether there was a distortion of the recording. So all that is being investigated. So yeah, so technical issues. Also, something that I've already mentioned is, you know, there could be algorithm bias, that, you know, if you are delivering a computer-based test, if you are delivering a test that is scored by automated scoring models and algorithms, you have to have all the checks in place and quality assurance processes. You have to, you know, monitor it constantly and monitor the data, and make sure that you know, that doesn't lead to unfair advantage or disadvantage of students. Yeah, I mean, I think there's another aspect that maybe is less thought about or talked about, but you know, when we talk about drawbacks and fairness and reliability of the results, I think that security is really important. You know, I want to make sure that the test I'm taking is not disadvantaging me because it's allowing somebody else to cheat, for example. So all these things that I've mentioned to you and about security, they really can be understated, because I want to make sure that everybody who holds the same certificate as I am have not gained it through, you know, unequal sort of advantage.
Yeah.
And there is also sort of, you know, when you're holding such huge amount of data, and you're handling huge amount of data, you have to make sure you have different policies and procedures in place, that are addressing privacy concerns. So, it's not my area of expertise, but I know that in the test center, when the test taker finishes the test, the results are encrypted. So nobody in the test center, no administrator can access them or do anything with them. They are encrypted, they are automatically uploaded to the system, and they flow through for scoring. When there is an investigation of a technical problem that maybe was raised, and test takers' responses are sort of pulled out of the database and stored on a computer, that computer and the person accessing it, everything is behind the password. Only that authorized person can access that. And then there is, data deletion policy that, data can only be held in a sort of a specific period of time. So all of that needs to be considered because it can have its drawbacks.
Okay, so I see the aim is like whenever there are some strict regulations and procedures, just follow them, and we need to believe that there is a sense of doing good behind those strict elements. So that you mentioned, you are pretty sure that the test and the results you get are your authentic results, and no one else in the world will be getting a better result because of unfair procedures or unfair strategies. So those strict regulations, those security procedures, the constant monitoring is just to serve the equal treatment for all the people around the world whenever you are. And because this is I really enjoy the talk about this computer-based and artificial intelligence. And since we are closing the session soon, what do you think of the potential development of automatic scoring with this, as you hear, of artificial intelligence making inroads into the daily activities more and more? We've got ChatGPT and other Sora platforms appearing, and it's happening really, really. The speed is really fast. Yeah. So, what could happen? Potentially happen? Will we reach completely AI reality without human? Like, I don't know whether it's gloomy image or not, but well, just posing
if
a
only
question.
we had a crystal ball, Bartek, that
Yeah.
or maybe it's best that we don't. I don't know, but I mean, despite what you just said, yeah, there are these moments like ChatGPT appearing overnight, and your jaw drops, and you think, wow, like where are we heading? But despite of that, I don't think that we will ever reach a point of fully AI-driven reality or future. At least I hope not. Of course, technology will will continue to develop, and it will become more and more sophisticated, and it will support us, with things like personalized learning and even automated grading, which will make teachers' lives much easier. With data, with even content creation, for the test. But I don't think that to have fully AI-based future, you have to have infrastructure, and we don't have that. As we discussed, we still have many parts of the world and many people who don't have the same equal access, and it creates, we would create sort of a gap and huge sort of inequity if we were insisting that everyone operates in that way. And I think also, I don't think as society or humans, I think we still really value human interaction. So yes, you can go to virtual school and you can chat to a computer and to a chat box, and it has its benefits and it can enhance your learning. But you will still want to have that human interaction, and you will want to be able to speak to your human tutor, who will be your supporter and who will motivate you and champion you. So no, and also I wanted to mention that there's more an increased emphasis from governments, from regulators, on a human element in any AI-powered systems and in testing as well. And in Pearson, we fully understand it and support it. And that's the way we operate. And that's the way we, where we focus. It is a hybrid system. Humans are really important in that process for quality assurance measures.
So I keep fingers crossed for this positive image of the future to come. But the next sessions with the practitioners, one of my aim was to have practitioners who will demonstrate that actually using AI in the preparation protocols is not a bad thing. You need to learn how to cooperate, you need to learn how to accept, and you need to learn how to take most out of the world of technology, incorporate into the teaching reality, and just function it is like a beautiful hybrid model. So you will hear it from us in one of the sessions about one of the practitioners who's actually saying that, hey, don't stay away from AI, embrace AI, use it, but make it sure that you understand the story behind so that you will benefit your students. Okay, so well, the 1 hour just flew really quickly. Kasia, I
Very
really
quickly.
appreciate, yes, I really appreciate your comments and your answers. So I hope that our audience got like a really nice understanding of the automatic scoring, the role of human inside the engine. There were endless questions, and my idea was that we need to build another AI engine so that we would employ AI engine within the webinars, because it's physically impossible for us to answer all the questions. I can see that more than 100 questions were already answered. So I appreciate our support team from doing it, and please accept the fact that we cannot answer all of them because it's physically impossible. We will have to sit for the next few hours answering those questions, and I hope that you are listening to us as well. Neil, can you just summarize, if you can, just the main categories? What were the people asking?
There's 300 open questions, so it's going to be hard to summarize. So
yes.
I've been trying to answer as quickly as I can. There's been a lot of questions about specific item types for academic, which I've been able to answer some of them. Apologies if I haven't been able to get to your question yet. Other than that, there's quite a lot of questions about core versus academic, and also about PTE home. There's questions about how scores are calculated, like how is an overall score calculated out of the different components, and is that information public? Is there a way to calculate a formula to know what your overall score should be? I'm not so sure about how to answer that. There's been quite a lot of questions about where to get a certificate, or will this be recorded and will they be able to watch this again later?
Okay.
Yeah.
So 300 questions. Sorry, well, cannot take it on a single course. So yes, the session is recorded. So it will be made available to you on the website that we have all the registration links. You will get a certificate. We'll do our best to answer further questions as we go by. I know that some people ask questions about PT Core, but then as we monitor the scoring system, I also have a chance to look from time to time at the different Facebook groups that PT preparation, and that was the story that I found today, and I saw like, okay, so the message was clear for some of the people because someone asked the difference, and I saw people replying in the chat, and I said like, okay, so the people got in the message because they were saying the PT Core is for the Canada only, the visa and migration work. PT Academic is when you study different regions, but knowing the fact that you shared with us those questions, so we'll make sure that we'll address those issues again in our communications. And Kasia, any final sentence from you? Anything that you'd like our audience to remember?
I think that what you've said as your, as an introduction to the next session, which I would really like to listen to as well, embrace it. Embrace it, and just I wanted to emphasize that any high stakes test, to deliver sort of reliable and accurate scores, it does need to have, sort of really highly focused, high focus on regulatory compliance, and it needs to be transparent, and it really, needs to use feedback from the test takers to make sure that they can enhance the reliability of the scores, but also the test takers' experience. And I really hope that we're doing that. And if not, please do reach out and send your feedback. We always welcome that, and we learn from it, and we try to improve.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
good luck to any future test takers as well.
Yes, fingers crossed. I'm going to leave one sentence one of the teachers shared with me some time ago, and I even made a copy of it. It's in my notebook. This person said, like, instead of trying to decipher how the AI works, what are the tricks to deceive the system, instead of spending your life trying to decipher it, as a teacher, try to decipher how can you deliver the best possible training so that you will boost students' language skills, that they will flourish at the academic university. Just shift your attention towards boosting the language skills and teaching effectively. Learn about the AI, but don't spend your years trying to decipher the ways how you can trick the system, because this is not the goal of the proper education. Thanks a lot for being with us. Thanks a lot for all the questions. Thank you for the support team for answering those questions. Just, I hope it was a nice introduction to the remaining webinars. Enjoy the rest of your day, and just be the best preparation provider you can ever be, and your students will be thankful for this type of approach. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks. Bye-bye.